kept you from being diagnosed with ADD? There are lots of reasons. Let's talk about some of them. Stay tuned. Well, so here you are, and people have suggested that you might have ADD, and you might have suspected things for a long time has been different, maybe your whole life. But what got in the way of somebody actually naming that? The first reason is you just didn't know, and no one ever bothered to suggest maybe that might be a factor. Many people find out about their own ADD when they take a child in to see a clinician, and that child is struggling in school. And the clinician asks the person, which one of you parents is the genetic link for ADD? And now it can come from both parents. And all of a sudden, a light bulb goes on. You start looking at things about ADD and you find, this sounds familiar. This sounds a little bit like me. So first step is just lack of knowledge. And the reality is teachers are not trained to spot it. When they see a child in school who's just crushing it in some courses and kind of tanking in others, they come to bad conclusions. Those conclusions are lazy kid. The kid can obviously do it. They're smart enough. They can do it. They just don't apply themselves. And how many times have I heard people say that? Oh my goodness, it is such a cliche. Other reasons why people don't get diagnosed. It's been suggested, and they go into a healthcare professional, and that professional says things like ADD doesn't exist, or no, you can't possibly have it. You know, you're a successful working person. You know, you have a long-term relationship. I worked in a major trauma center where they trained psychiatrists, and I listened to the clinical director educating new psychiatric residents on what ADD looked like. And what she described were people at the low end of the functionality continuum. Not people who had advanced degrees or degrees at all, not people who were stable in their jobs, not people who had stable relationships, and certainly people at the lower end. Yeah, they are there, but it leaves out the majority of people, and so it gets missed. And little did she know, standing behind her was a successful person with multiple advanced degrees and publications who, has ADD. I have a client who went to the University of Washington in a master's in special education, and at no time during her program did they even talk about ADD. And so we have a difficulty in that various clinicians just don't know much about it. Another reason is parents. They may know that you have ADD. And for some parents, they feel it reflects on them as a parent, that somehow they've been a bad parent and their child has now got this thing. And so we're not going to acknowledge it. Many clients I've encountered say that my parents knew I had ADD, but they refused to let me consider any treatment at all. So here you are as an adult, and someone suggested it. And maybe your friends went, duh, you think? And so I would start your investigation by reading. One of the really good overview books is something called Delivered from Distraction. If you find this resonating with you, then it's time to think about an assessment. And next week, I am going to talk about what does a thorough workup for ADD consist of? Because unfortunately, there are people who overdiagnose this, and the other part of this equation is that it's underdiagnosed because people really don't know what they're looking at. So this has been G.H. Glade for Coaching ADD. If this is useful for someone in your life that you know, send it their way and hit that like button because it pushes this out in the YouTube algorithm so more people can take advantage of it. Until next week, when I will do what a complete ADD workup looks like, so long.